Ok, creo que tengo que hacer un contexto de todo esto. Resulta que hace unos días yo les pregunté a ustedes por Twitter si querían hacer una pregunta a Yanderedev, ¿cuál sería esa pregunta? Ese mismo día le escribí a Yanderedev preguntándole si quería hacer un preguntas y respuestas. Y respondió que sí. Y no solo eso, sino que él se ofreció a usar su avatar VTuber para responder las preguntas. Así que vamos a hacer una video reacción a las preguntas y respuestas de Yanderedev. Ok, entienden que no solamente respondió las preguntas, sino que las subió a su canal. ¿Entienden? Tengo unos nervios terribles, así que vamos a empezar.
Hello. YouTuber named VictoriaLand5, who has been making videos about Yandere Simulator for more than 6 years. Recently, she contacted me and asked me if I would answer some questions for her. Her questions were pretty good and are probably of interest to many people. So, in this video, I'm going to answer some questions from VictoriaLand5. In 2008, I played a game called Iggy, which was developed by a single man over the course of 5 years. While I was playing Iggy, I kept thinking, how could one man make this entire game all by himself? It made me interested in learning more about game development and finding out if I could develop games too. When I was in college, I took courses in animation and game development, and after I graduated, I got an internship at a game company. After working there for 3 years, I felt like I had finally acquired the knowledge and experience necessary to create games by myself. So, in 2013, I quit my job to pursue a career as an independent game developer.
Es que la verdad es algo realmente asombroso para que lo haya hecho solamente una persona. Está bien que hay gente que lo ayuda con creando los modelos y todo eso, pero es realmente asombroso. La cantidad de personajes que hay en el colegio en el colegio y fuera del colegio, es un montón de personajes en todo el juego y le tiene que crear la historia a cada uno, las animaciones, las historias, las misiones. Es un montón de trabajo para una sola persona, la verdad que es bastante asombroso. Y encima dedicarse 24/7 a averiguar dónde hay bugs y tratar de arreglarlos, la verdad es algo que yo me daría una flojera hacer todo eso.
After I left my job, I started developing game prototypes, but I encountered the same problem with each of them. All of the games I wanted to make would require a tremendous number of art assets that I couldn't create on my own. I decided that instead of coming up with a game idea first and trying to make the assets later, I should design a game based around whatever assets were already available to me. So, I checked the Unity Asset Store and found a character model that was within my budget, an anime schoolgirl. The character came with dozens of animations, possibly enough to make a simple game with. So I asked a friend of mine, what kind of game would you design if the main character had to be a schoolgirl? And he said he'd make a game about being a juvenile delinquent. That idea sounded okay, but I felt like it could get more interesting. So I tried to imagine something more extreme than a juvenile delinquent, a criminal. And the most extreme type of criminal is a serial killer. But what type of schoolgirl is a serial killer? A yandere. So I decided to start developing a yandere simulator. And you know the story from there. No, not really. If there was anything in the game that I didn't like, I would just remove it. Well, there is one thing that I do wish was different. I wish that I hadn't allowed the game to become so much larger and more complex than I originally planned. Sometimes, I wish I was working on a short and simple game, rather than a huge and complicated game. But it's too late to have any regrets about that sort of thing now.
Claro, ahí dice que por ahí lo que le hubiera gustado es dedicarse a hacer un juego más cortito y no tan largo como está resultando ser Yandere Simulator. Y es comprensible, o sea, una sola persona haciendo todo eso es totalmente comprensible. Por eso dice que probablemente tal vez le hubiese gustado hacer algo más corto, ¿no? Con una historia más cortita. Pero bueno, considerando que él es solamente él haciendo todo lo que hace, yo creo que va por buen camino.
I strongly doubt that it will ever be possible to play Yandere Simulator on a mobile device. Some games will simply never run on a phone or a tablet because they're just too large and can only be played on the type of hardware that is found in consoles and desktop computers, not phones. Yandere Simulator might look like a simple game on the surface, but running a detailed simulation of a large school environment populated by dozens of unique characters requires more processing power than a phone can provide. So I strongly doubt that a game as complex as Yandere Sim could ever run on a mobile device. Also, a total of 16 buttons are required to use all of Yandere Simulator's features, and cramming all of those buttons into a small touchscreen would probably make it a pain to play the game. The only way that Yandere Simulator could ever run on mobile phones is if I created a simplified, dumbed-down version of the game that is missing 99% of the features and only has the most basic functionality. And that would strip the game of everything that makes it special. So I would never want to do that.
Es que sí, es lógico. O sea, el Yandere Simulator es un juego muy pesado. Imagínate que hay notebooks, hay laptops que no pueden correr al Yandere Simulator porque el juego no lo soporta la computadora. Imagínate en un celular. O sea, está bastante difícil. Así que es totalmente entendible. Una lástima para las personas que no pueden tener una computadora, pero bueno, es lo que hay.
At the beginning of Yandere Simulator's development, I tried to make a list of tragic and shocking ways that a person could die. For example, an actress dying on stage while performing in front of an audience. Then, I designed characters with identities and interests that could lead them directly to those deaths, and I created their personalities using the anime tropes associated with those identities. My favorite characters are Infochan, Ryoba, and Megami, because they live under much more unique circumstances than the rest of the characters in the game. I have a lot of surprises and plot twists planned for those characters, and I'm looking forward to the day when I can finally put those surprises into the game. My favorite rival is Megami, because it's very fun to think about all of the creative ways that I can make her more challenging to eliminate than the other rivals. Every day, I think about the game projects I was working on before I started developing Yandere Simulator, and I wish that I could return to them and continue working on them. I also come up with new game ideas all the time. On rare occasions, I'll even set aside a few hours to prototype one of my game ideas. There are so many projects I want to work on, but I know that I shouldn't start working on any new projects until after my current project is complete. So, for now, I'm keeping all of my focus on Yandere Simulator. The idea that one day I'll finally be able to work on other game projects is my strongest motivation for finishing Yandere Simulator.
Ok, me pasa exactamente lo mismo con Detrás del Juego. Yo tengo Detrás del Juego y es la serie principal de mi canal y tengo muchas ganas de hacer otro tipo de series, también de Yandere Simulator, pero no puedo, no me dan los tiempos porque sé que si me pongo a animar otras series voy a atrasar un poco Detrás del Juego, la gente se va a desesperar, yo me voy a desesperar y va a ser toda una tragedia. Entonces es como que prefiero primero seguir con Detrás del Juego y una vez que ya esté terminado Detrás del Juego, seguir con otras series.
I think that Osana's rejection method was the most difficult thing to program into the game. It required me to put over a dozen complex events into the game, each with multiple outcomes. The experience taught me that, in the future, having a system for easily creating new rival events will be absolutely mandatory if I want future rivals to get into the game quickly and efficiently. In one of the headmaster's cassette tapes, tape 10, the headmaster talks about how InfoChan is blackmailing him, so he is doing everything that she tells him to do, such as letting her stay in a spare room at the school. To explain InfoChan's presence at school to the faculty, he makes up a story about InfoChan being a special needs student with intense social anxiety, who must remain secluded in one of the school's rooms, or else she'll have a panic attack. If you want to hear the details, you can find the tape in the trash can in the headmaster's office.
Ok, creo que acá empiezan las preguntas que me dan mucha vergüenza.
Many times throughout development, players have suggested that it should be possible for students to develop crushes on Ayano.
Somos unos pesados.
I can think of 2 reasons why that idea might make a good addition to the game. As of now, having a high reputation at school is a little overpowered. Perhaps there should be a drawback to being too popular at school. For example, if Ayano is too popular, maybe students will follow her around and try to talk to her all the time, which would prevent you from being able to commit murder without any witnesses. This would encourage the player to maintain a neutral reputation, so they are not too popular and not too unpopular at school. On the other hand, instead of a drawback, perhaps this feature could be a useful tool. If a boy has a crush on Ayano, maybe you could ask that boy to do unique favors for you that normally aren't available, such as taking something to the incinerator for you, bringing you a clean school uniform, or providing you with an alibi during a police investigation. Although I can think of a few reasons why it might be beneficial to allow students to get a crush on Ayano, it was never really part of my vision for the finished game, so it's hard to get enthusiastic about the idea. I've been working on Yandere Simulator for a very long time, and I'm not really interested in planning any more features for the game, because I already have enough work to do.
Sí, pobrecito, y
So,
nosotros
with that
pidiéndole
in mind,
agregar más
it
cosas.
probably won't be possible for students to fall in love with Ayano.
¿Por qué me pongo tan nerviosa?
At this point in time, I've been calling those characters Ayano Aishi and Taro Yamada for more than 5 years. So yes, I think those names are final. It would just be weird to change them at this point in time.
Sí, sería raro.
Oh, that. Over the course of Yandere Simulator's development, various 3D modelers have contacted me and offered to create models for the game. In 2015, the volunteer who modeled the original faculty room put an Easter egg into the room, a book with the words, "How to hentai without hentaiing" on the cover. The book was inside of a safe, and I didn't think that the safe had an interior, so I never looked inside of it, and I put the book into the game without realizing that it existed. The book was created without my knowledge or consent, and I removed it from the game once I realized that it existed. Because I didn't request the book or even want the book, I don't consider it to be canon in Yandere Simulator.
Terrible polémica, porque el chabón no pidió meter ese libro en en el juego, alguien lo metió y todo el mundo descubrió ese juego, ese libro, y terrible polémica, porque, bueno, por lo menos cuando recién empezaba el juego, yo me acuerdo que estaba todo el mundo, ¿qué es este libro? ¿Qué dice? ¿Cómo que lo escribió tal?
That's an interesting question. The answer depends on which ending you obtain when you beat the game. Because I don't want to give away too much information about the end of the game, I can't provide a detailed answer to this question. Why, indeed. It's a secret. I'm the only person who knows.
Yo sabía.
But maybe you'll be able to learn more about what happened between Raibaru and Budo as more rivals are added to the game.
Eso lo sabía, yo sabía que en algún lado lo vi, porque yo sabía que, o sea, no sé dónde, no me acuerdo dónde, pero en algún lado yo había leído como que las únicas personas que sabían de por qué ella rechazó a Budo, solamente ellos dos lo sabían, o bueno, el Yandere, pero yo sabía, pero no sabía dónde lo había leído. Ahora lo tengo confirmado. O sea, nadie sabe por qué Raibaru rechazó a Budo.
Even though Ayano cannot feel strong emotions, she does appreciate and care about her father, and she does not want to see him being sad.
Aww.
The two of them are somewhat distant, because Ayano spent most of her time studying and her father spends most of his time at work. But they're still on good terms with one another. Ryoba does not feel jealousy towards her daughter, and she's happy when she sees her daughter and husband getting along with one another.
Buen dato. Yo pensé que sí era celosa.
Many people have speculated as to the true nature of the Aishi condition. Is it a genetic disease? Is it a curse? Or is it something else entirely? I'm the only person in the world who knows the truth. And you'll only learn what it is in the true ending of the game.
Okay.
Nope. Every member of the Aishi bloodline suffers from the Aishi condition, including the males.
Eso también no lo sabía. Yo pensé que era solamente las mujeres.
I would be absolutely honored if Yandere Simulator got an anime adaptation.
Sí, muy bien
But
esa imagen.
creating an animated series is very expensive, and it's the type of thing that only happens if you have a lot of money, a lot of sponsors willing to finance the anime, or an anime studio who wants to do it for you. I'm not going to go out of my way to try to make a Yandere Simulator anime happen, but if the opportunity ever presented itself, I would jump at the chance to see Yandere Sim get turned into an anime series.
Sería increíble. Bueno.
Well,
Ok, ahora empiezan las preguntas que me ponen muy nerviosa porque sé que no es posible, pero aún así le hice las preguntas tipo para ver qué pasaba. Porque yo sé que muchos de ustedes querían saber esto, entonces es como que me dio mucha vergüenza, pero le hice esta pregunta. ¡Ay, qué nervios!
well, Taro is the only boy in the world who can make Ayano feel anything. Because
Me imagino que Yandere debe estar re cansado de que todo el tiempo le estén preguntando, pero ¿puede ser real Ayano por Budo? ¿Puede ser real? Y yo como boa voy y le pregunto. Ay, pobre. Ay, Dios, necesito agua.
boy in the world who can make Ayano feel anything. Because that's the way that the Aishi condition works. She can't have feelings for Budo. It's not possible. She's physically incapable of it due to the Aishi condition. However, it doesn't bother me if people want to imagine Ayano and Budo together in a relationship, or write stories about them, even though it's not.
No puedo parar, no estoy escuchando lo que dice, estoy demasiado nerviosa, no puedo. Ok. Ok, vamos de nuevo. Para. Tranquila.
Doesn't bother me if people want to imagine Ayano and Budo together in a relationship, or write stories about them.
¿Ves? ¿Ves? Es lo que yo les decía. Yo sé que él, bueno, ahora lo está diciendo, no tiene problema con que la gente haga este tipo de ships, que no puede ser real en el juego es otra cosa, porque obviamente no es real porque porque Ayano está enamorada de Taro y eso no va a cambiar. Pero no hay ningún problema si la gente hace historias de ships diferentes. Se los dije.
Even though it's not canon, it still makes me happy to know that there are people who like the game's characters enough to envision them in scenarios that can't happen in the game itself. Actually, it's canon that Yandere Simulator takes place in a universe with multiple timelines. For example, Mission Mode is an alternate timeline where Ayano killed Taro and works for InfoChan as an assassin. So, if Yandere Simulator has an infinite number of timelines, then there must be a timeline where Ayano and Budo are in love with each other. It's not the
¡Tenemos un multiverso confirmado! Tenemos un multiverso confirmado por Yandere. Me sirve totalmente. Migajas, me encantan las migajas.
main timeline, but it does exist somewhere.
Cosas le pregunto yo también. ¿Qué cosas que le pregunto? Por favor. Ay, Dios. Estaba re loca ese día.
I haven't ever thought about it before, but there's a room in Akademi where you can find a bunch of plushies that represent popular YouTubers who have played Yandere Simulator. I think that Victoria Land 5 deserves to have a plushie on that shelf. And maybe she could have a tiny Ayano and a tiny Budo sitting on her lap to represent the pairing that appears in her videos. If one of my volunteers wants to create that plushie, I'll put it in the game.
¡Ay, sí, por favor! ¡Sí! Sí. ¡Ay, Dios! ¡Dios! Sí, por favor. Por favor, sí. Ay, Dios, no puedo con mi vida, no puedo. Ay, sí, eso sería genial, me reencantaría, estaría buenísimo. Sí. Ay, Dios, la felicidad.
When I first started working on Yandere Simulator, I thought that maybe a few hundred people might notice it. I never imagined that one day the game would eventually have fans in countries all over the world. It makes me really happy, and I'm very grateful for the fans in Latin America and everywhere else too. The only language I can speak is English, so I thought that I wouldn't be able to understand Detrás del Juego. However, I just learned that the videos have English subtitles. Now I know that I'll be able to understand the videos, so I'm very interested in checking them out.
Ay, no puedo con mi vida, Ay, estoy demasiado nerviosa. Es demasiado para mí.
Muchos gracias for following the development of Yandere Simulator. What? I told you I could only speak English. Hello.
Ay, Dios. Ay, Dios. Bueno, estuvo bueno. Yo la verdad que estaba re nerviosa, tenía miedo con las preguntas, sobre todo las últimas, pero estuvo muy bueno. Ay, Dios, lo que sufrí en este video. Muchos nervios. Pero bueno, respondió a todas las preguntas y yo la verdad que estoy contenta con el resultado y... Ay Dios, todavía estoy muy nerviosa. Pasaron demasiadas cosas en tan poco tiempo. O sea, primero que Yanderedev aceptó a responder a mis preguntas, a nuestras preguntas. Segundo, la publicó en el video lo publicó en su canal de YouTube. Tercero, dijo eso lo del peluche, no sé cómo le dicen ustedes, Pushín, peluche ay Dios, estoy demasiado nerviosa. Haciendo referencia al Allano por Budo en el videojuego. Pasaron demasiadas cosas. Habló sobre detrás del juego. Dijo que lo va a ver porque está subtitulado, que es verdad, siempre lo subtitulo en todos los idiomas posibles. Pasaron demasiadas cosas. Estoy demasiado nerviosa. Necesito agua, necesito tomar agua, necesito relajarme. Estoy... Ah, Dios. Así que nada, espero que les haya gustado el video, que lo hayan disfrutado. Y yo ahora mismo me voy a subtitular todo este video de no sé cuánta duración. Tengo que subtitular todo. Adiós, guacho. Nos revemos.